I've had the first generation AirPods Pro since they came out in 2019. They fit me great, they sound wonderful, fantastic noise canceling technology, and sound transparency is just awesome. Not to mention, connectivity in the Apple ecosystem is just the chef's kiss. Really, everything I could ask for personally in a pair of wireless earbuds. That is until a friend of mine convinced me to try out the second generation AirPods Pros. These things are annoyingly good, and I'll tell you why. The second generation AirPods Pros come with the new H2 chip with custom-built drivers that promise to deliver a more vivid sound experience. The thing is, technology always promises better, and after a while we get used to that elevated experience. So instead of doing an outright side-by-side comparison between the old and the new, I decided to use the new generation for a few days, get myself acclimated first, then switch back to the old ones. I feel that if the new ones were really better, I would most definitely notice the loss in sound quality and performance once I switched back to the first generation. In this review, I'll be using the first generation AirPods as a reference point, but I should also mention that my favorite earbuds are the Beats Fit Pros, and I use them almost every day. While they are technically the same internally as the first generation AirPods Pros, I find them to be a bit better, thanks to the fit and design, which I will also cover later in this video. So I'll be talking about the new features of the latest AirPods Pros, how they compare to the first generations, if the sound quality is much better to warrant an upgrade, and ultimately, if the second generation AirPods Pros are for you. Also, at the very end of this video, I'll be answering direct questions sent to me regarding the AirPods Pros, so make sure you stick around for that. Now, while my other self acclimates to the new earbuds, let's talk about the other key features, starting with the physical differences. So you will be forgiven to think that the second generation AirPods Pros look exactly the same as the first generation because as far as physical attributes go for the earbuds themselves, the only difference is the placement of the noise canceling microphones. The case is exactly the same shape and size, except that it now has a loop for lanyards and some speaker holes at the bottom for battery notifications and location alerts. The second generation also supports MagSafe charging and better battery capacity with up to 30 hours of listening time versus the 24 hours on the first generation. To clarify, the first generation AirPods Pro case only support Qi wireless charging, not MagSafe, meaning you can't stick it onto magnetic surfaces. The new case also takes advantage of the new U1 chip, which helps you find your AirPods Pro using the Find My app. I really think they need to change the name of that app, but anyway. The built-in speakers can produce a loud enough chime to help you locate it. Both generations are rated IPX4, sweat and water resistant. Since I daily the Fit Pros, I was reminded of how wonderfully small the case of the AirPods Pro is, as well as how much more premium it feels overall. The AirPods Pros come with various ear tip sizes, but I found that the default ones to be just the right size for me, so I'll be sticking with those. Squeezing the stem for a second or two switches between noise cancellation and sound transparency mode, which worked really well for both models. Now, some people prefer to use earbuds when traveling by air or by train, and I think those are the most realistic situations in which the noise canceling feature will be most relevant. So I played a loud sound in the background to simulate these environments as best as I can. Sound transparency is a feature that lets you hear the world around you even while you're wearing the earbuds. Special microphones around the earbuds take the sounds in your environment, processes it, then pumps it right back into your ear all in an instant. This gives you environmental awareness when you're out on a jog or just doing everyday things. You can even have normal conversations with people without the earbuds getting in the way of your hearing. Although I still think it can look quite rude not to take them off when talking, but that's just me. The second generation takes this a step further using the power of the H2 chip. They now call this adaptive transparency, which minimizes the intensity of loud noises when enabled. To compare this feature between the two generations, I walked around the neighborhood with it enabled and without any music playing. Both generations did really well in this test, but there is a significant difference in performance for the second generation AirPods Pros. I could very well hear the crunching of the leaves on the ground as well as the sound of the birds and the insects. Not to say that the first generation didn't perform well, but they just didn't deliver the same clarity as the new ones. As far as minimizing loud noises go, I'm not really sure because we live near an airfield, so airplanes flying about are common to me, and using the adaptive transparency made it just sound, the same. I can tell you for a fact though that the ANC on the second gens does a much better job at tuning out outside noises when my wife decided to play music on the speakers while I was trying to work out. This is genuinely one of my top favorite features of any modern tech, and I think the AirPods Pros does a tremendous job in delivering it. The stem of the AirPods Pros give you limited control to some features such as enabling ANC, music playback, and answering calls. The second generation adds a swiping feature that lets you adjust the volume. I honestly didn't care for this in the beginning, but I found that when I leave my phone behind during my workouts, it's much easier adjusting the volume this way than using my Apple Watch Ultra. And yes, I'm aware that you can also ask Siri to adjust the volume, but personally, I just haven't fully adapted to using voice commands in my day-to-day. Now, the only thing I have to say about the swiping feature is that it's not the most pleasant experience as the stems of the earbuds are really short. I wish that the swiping motion was done on the outside of the earbuds, as this makes it a more elegant way of adjusting it as opposed to swiping on the very tiny indentations. And I don't even have large hands. The second generation has a redesigned inward-facing microphone. This, alongside Apple's voice enhancement algorithm, promises a more natural sound when on the phone or video calls. So here's a sample between the two generations so you can decide for yourself. This is a sample audio from the AirPods Pro, first generation. Mic test, mic test. This is an audio sample from the AirPods Pro, second generation. Mic test, mic test, mic test. Okay, so it's been a few days of using the second generation AirPods Pros, and now it's time to switch back to the old ones. The first thing I immediately noticed is how close together the instruments sound in the first generation compared to the second generation. But since I'm not an audiophile, I'll do my best to visually demonstrate what the sound is like to me using these. The first generation AirPods Pros have amazing sound with good separation. The highs are bright, the mids are clear, and the bass, while lacking on certain tracks, are present. Like listening to music on a premium soundbar as opposed to using your TV's built-in speakers. The second generation AirPods Pros are like adding satellite speakers to the soundbar and further separating the sound from each other, resulting in a larger sounding stage, less pronounced but more enjoyable mids, and really nice highs. But the bass is where I was surprised the most. It's not that it's louder, more like there's more depth and substance to it. And it genuinely made me wonder how such tiny earbuds are able to produce such great sounding low frequencies. Not entirely convinced, I switched back to the first generation, and I can confirm that the second generation sounds significantly much better. As a matter of fact, the sound is so much better that I am able to clearly hear and enjoy my music at only 30% volume with adaptive transparency on while I did my daily walks. And even more amazing is because I don't have to crank up the volume as much, I could still hear my environment very clearly. In the beginning, I mentioned that the new AirPods Pros are annoyingly good, and I promise you, I'm not just trying to be facetious. There are two reasons I feel this way. First, the last generations were already good, absolutely no complaints about them. This new generation sets the bar high enough for me to not want to give them up, but not so high where I can tell everyone that it's a life-changing experience. Meaning, anytime I use my Beats Fit Pros or my wife's first-gen AirPods Pros, I will be acutely aware that the experience could be much better, which kind of ruins the experience. And second, these headphones right here are one of my favorite over-the-ear headphones. They cost me over $400 just this year, right before they released the brand new ones and cut the price of this model by around 40%. But anyway, that's besides the point. I was totally okay with paying that price because every time I sit at my desk, I switch from my earbuds to these because they deliver a much better sound experience. But here's where it gets annoying. Most of the music that I listen to, particularly acoustic ones, sound much better on the second generation AirPods Pros, which means that my $400 over-the-ear headphones have been getting a lot less use lately. It's now just a very expensive paperweight. Not really, but you know what I mean. So now we get to the question of, should you get the second generation AirPods Pros if you have the older version. If you've tried the regular AirPods and decided that paying for the Pros is worth it because it delivers a much better experience for you, then you should definitely give the new generations a try. I'm confident you will like them much more than you probably think. But if you're coming from regular AirPods or no AirPods at all and wondering if the first or the second generation AirPods Pros is the right move, well, here's where I sneak in my argument for the Beats Fit Pros. Now, assuming you can still find a brand new first gen AirPods Pro somewhere, you will most likely pay near $200. Renewed or refurbished first gens are being sold online for around $150 to $160. But brand new Beats Fit Pros are currently being sold on Amazon at the time of this video for $159. That is an amazing deal, in my opinion, and here's why. You get identical sound performance, noise cancellation, sound transparency, and seamless connections within the Apple ecosystem as the original AirPods Pros, but with less awkward looking design and better seal and fit for active users, which to me also translates to slightly better sound performance. The only real trade-off would be the case, as it doesn't support Qi wireless charging and it feels surprisingly cheap. But if you're someone who regularly works out and just wants something that sounds great, is comfortable to use, and easy to carry, the Beats Fit Pros are the winner. Frankly, when I saw the new AirPods Pros during Apple's keynote presentation, I thought it was very underwhelming. I was looking for something vastly different in design or form factor. Maybe I was expecting something that visually shows that I've got the latest and greatest because, let's face it, Apple products have become status symbols, whether you care to admit it or not. And because of that, I basically slept on the second generation AirPods Pros until my friend decided to wake me up from my slumber. And as much as I hate to admit it, I'm glad that he did, because these are the best wireless earbuds I've ever tried. Thanks for watching this video, but stay tuned till the end as I answer some questions sent directly to me regarding the AirPods Pros. Now, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification icon. This helps me grow and enables me to create more content like this for you to watch and enjoy for free. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys again soon. As promised, I'm answering a few questions that were sent to me directly regarding the AirPods Pro's second generation. So I did this through my Instagram, and I've actually gotten a couple of responses. So I'm going to start with Liz. And Liz asks, have you noticed slower connectivity issues in the second gen AirPods Pro? It's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because I've been experiencing some drops in connection with either one earbuds, but it's not just for the AirPods Pros. It's been happening with my Beats Fit as well. I'm guessing it's some bug with the new OS or something. It's happened a couple of times, but not enough for me to be turned off from using the AirPods Pros. Clarice asks the main difference between the new and the old ones, and if there is any experience improvements that could possibly save her time or improve her workflow. I've really thought about this after using this for more than a week now, and I think the strongest thing about the AirPods Pros is the combination of the better sound and the really good adaptive transparency, because it used to be that when I turn on sound transparency for the first gen, I really sacrificed the quality of the music. But for this, I can literally have adaptive transparency on throughout the entire day, and it doesn't degrade the music experience for me. In fact, it just makes it feel nicer to use because I can still remain aware of my surroundings, because that particular feature used to worsen the experience, but now it actually enhances it, if that makes sense. Alistair asks, is an upgrade really necessary from the previous Pros? If so, why, other than it being new? As I mentioned, the sound is so much better, as well as the adaptive sound transparency. The ANC is definitely better, but that's never really been the #1 feature for me. So it really depends on what you value, but if you're getting premium earbuds, I think the #1 thing to consider really is the sound. Also, obviously the fit. So if the first generation didn't fit you well, this is basically the same thing. And lastly, I have a question from Make One Studio, and they ask, does it pass the headbang test? Let's find out. Little dizzy there, but yes, they pass it with flying colors.